Good Monday, Cup of Sales Joe. Recently, I had some things that were out of the norm in my work. And when they happened, some of them, well, I either hadn't experienced before or I hadn't in a while. So I naturally had to put them into context. As I was doing so, it occurred to me that the practice of attaching meaning to events in our life is pretty important. And that I know sometimes I do this very unconsciously. What I mean by that is that I will just go with what others think or what I have thought before, which is very autopilot. And as I strive, and maybe you do too, to be more conscious and to apply good awareness to our work, we should inspect this process and what we can do better and what we experience and the meaning we place on it. Because learning and growth are predicated on using what we experience to become better, to learn lessons, and to progress in our abilities and accomplishments. So, let's dig into how we assign meaning and how we can do this more consciously. First, let me say, as I always do, that we need to ask the right questions to get the answers that we need. So when we experience something, whether it's good or bad, and you may already be assigning meaning by saying something is good or bad, we should consciously ask, what does this represent for me? Let me repeat that. When we experience something, whether it's good or bad, we should ask, what does this represent for me? The key parts of this question are the words represent and me. First of all, what does it mean to you? Because what the world thinks about something doesn't dictate what you think, or at least if you are conscious and aware of it, it doesn't. Yes, we may become aware and even educated in some instances by watching the world and the people and things in it. That's called experience. But we've all encountered times when what we personally think and feel is not represented by what the world largely thinks. So it has to be meaning that we place on something, that you place on something, not someone else. And asking what something represents takes out the emotion from it. It's not detached thinking, as in we have no interest or feeling about it, but it is removing the attachment that emotion creates. This question hones in on the meaning and how it impacts us. We are then answering in the realm of identity, which is far more conscious and aware than simply asking how we feel about a certain thing. Some people ask me, why do you call it Cup of Sales Joe? The truth? I love coffee. Maybe you do too. Or maybe you like all the other things that come along with coffee. The community, the warm feeling. Mad Goat Coffee is who I have to blame for my coffee obsession. Because Sam, the founder, taught me all about what makes great coffee because they know. In fact, I'd like to share some of that with you, my listeners. Sam has been kind enough to offer my listeners some savings in trying the best coffee out there. So visit madgoatcoffee.com and you can find everything from cool apparel with their wonderful logo to cups and mugs. I just got a new one myself that I'm using regularly. And most of all, the coffee. My favorite happens to be their Ethiopian Guji Light Roast, but you can find your favorite. So visit madgoatcoffee.com and use code CSJ to save yourself 10%. And then you can thank me for your coffee obsession. When we answer what an event or thing means to us, we can then measure that against what we want to have and to do and to be in our lives and our work. Say, for example, you have an aggressive goal for your work. You want to achieve high performance. Say you lose a customer or something happens that seemingly goes against accomplishing that result. We can assign a lot of different meanings to this. We could say that's a reason that I won't accomplish my goal, or somehow this is fate and I just won't be successful. And it is frustrating when something happens that seems to move us away from our goals. But if we look deeper, is that always a negative thing? On the surface, perhaps it's a negative outcome when measured against our high, lofty goals. But what if that was exactly what we needed? What if we had a blind spot that would keep us from our goal, and this event just uncovered that for us? I did a previous message a while back titled, "Just What You Need is What You Get," which talks about how we can use whatever happens to our advantage. How we can assign meaning is a key part of that. In fact, if we are aware and completely conscious, we see every event as an opportunity to grow and to learn, both the positive and seemingly negative events. You may be familiar with a series of books that came out in the 80s known as the Peaceful Warrior books, written by Dan Millman. I remember first reading Way of the Peaceful Warrior as a teenager and finding great lessons within. And one of the major lessons I still carry to this day and influences my work is the idea of no ordinary moments. If every event is an opportunity to learn and grow and progress, then we have, given this mindset, unlimited possibilities. When you see the world and your work this way, it is amazing how our attitude changes and may actually allow us to raise the ceiling of our potential. Let me give you some simple examples of this. Let's say right now you are sitting at your desk or in your vehicle. How aware are you currently of your posture? Is it ideal? Or, once you're now aware of it, can you improve it? There you go. You just turned this ordinary moment into a growth opportunity. If you are unconsciously carrying tension someplace, can you now consciously let it go? Now, our minds cannot be 100% conscious of 100% of what's happening around us 100% of the time. That would create cognitive overload and we would be paralyzed. So it is natural for us to tune out many things in the course of our day. In fact, most of the time, we run on autopilot. But what we choose to shine the light of our awareness on and where we apply our conscious attention can determine where we go and what we do. For example, how's your breathing right now? I'm not saying it isn't good, but now that you pay attention to it, can you improve it? Now, as you look at the meaning and significance you apply to things in your work, are they reinforcing what you want to do, or are they detracting from it without even realizing it? Do certain things, when they happen, push your buttons? In other words, they create aggravation and frustration and negative thoughts? How could you, if you are seeing these opportunities for growth, look at these things differently, especially those things that may frustrate you and you see repeatedly? The fact is, those are the real movers when it comes to being more conscious and developing our potential. It may come as no surprise to you that I find certain kinds of music to help increase my consciousness, because it is an accompaniment to my being. It does not become the center of my focus, but it allows space and mental bandwidth to focus on other things. It reminds me that there are no ordinary moments, lest I get looped into letting them go without thought or awareness. Maybe there is some music that does this for you too. It may prompt you to think big, or center yourself, or get into your groove. But at a fundamental level, it increases your consciousness. You become aware of not only yourself, but the world around you and what it is to you. Meaning, usefulness, and purposefulness all increase. Or maybe a certain environment does this for you. Being in nature, seeing natural wonders that make you feel the scope of our existence and our place in the world. Or certain practices like meditation, or people like teachers and mentors. Find what brings you to a more conscious, aware mindset. Or maybe listening to a certain message each week. In truth, one of my goals with this is to increase your and my consciousness with the topics that I cover. Is it working? Now, if music is your thing, or even if it isn't, sometimes you'll find that movie soundtracks fit the bill here. Why? Because in a few hours they tell a story, and filmmakers cannot afford to have any ordinary moments. So think about your life or your work like a movie. There's a story being told. How many ordinary moments are in your story? And what story do they tell if you allow them to be all there is? Now, this can be a great tool for changing our mindset, our mentality, but it does not in and of itself change our actions. This is where being conscious takes on a whole new impact. How does a change in how you see events and things we experience change your next behavior? If we are a more conscious, aware being, how does our work actually change? In other words, you can ask yourself, if I was a completely aware and conscious person and there were no ordinary moments, how would I use this moment? That is an empowered and engaged mindset that sets you apart and will give you what you need to succeed. So, how would you approach your day or your work if you knew there were no ordinary moments? Spend this week looking at normally benign and mundane occurrences and ask what you can gain from it that will help you to get where you want and become who you want to be. And have an extraordinary week.